The great hall of the Velari homeworld was filled with tension. Queen Sirana sat upon her throne of living crystal, her 4 eyes scanning the gathered males before her. They came from every corner of the galaxy. Warriors, princes, diplomats, and scholars. All of them wanted one thing. They wanted to become her mate and rule beside her. The Velari were an ancient race. Their queens lived for thousands of years, and their choice of mate would shape the future of countless worlds. Queen Sirana was young by their standards, only 300 years old, but she had already proven herself wise and strong. Now the time had come for her to choose. Her advisor, an old Velari named Keth, stood beside her. He leaned close and spoke in a low voice. "My queen, the candidates grow restless. The Drakkar prince has been here for 2 months already." Sirana sighed. The Drakkar prince was massive and powerful. His species was known for their strength in battle. He would make a strong ally, but when she looked at him, she felt nothing. No spark, no connection. "I will see them all in time," she said, "but none of them feel right." Keth nodded slowly. He had served 3 queens before her. He knew that the choice of mate was not about politics or power. It was about something deeper. A queen needed a mate who would protect her people with his whole heart, one who would stand beside her through any storm. "There is one more candidate," Keth said carefully. "He arrived yesterday. He is different from the others." Sirana raised one eyebrow. "Different how?" "He is human." The word hung in the air. Humans were new to the galactic stage. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. They were small compared to most species. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. Many races looked down on them as weak and primitive. "A human," Sirana repeated. "Why would a human come to compete for my hand?" "He says he was invited by your mother, the late Queen Vorath." Sirana sat up straighter. Her mother had died 2 years ago, but she had been the wisest queen in Velari history. If she had invited a human, she must have had a reason. "Bring him to me," Sirana commanded. The doors of the great hall opened, and a human walked in. He was average height for his species, with dark hair and brown eyes. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy or impressive. He carried no weapons that Sirana could see. The other candidates laughed. The Drakkar prince made a sound of disgust. "This is a joke," he said loudly. "A human, he would snap like a twig." The human did not react to the insult. He walked calmly to the base of the throne and bowed his head respectfully. "My name is Marcus Chen," he said. "Queen Vorath saved my colony 10 years ago when the Kreeth raiders attacked. She asked nothing in return, but she told me something. She said that one day her daughter would need someone who understood sacrifice. She invited me to come when that day arrived." Sirana studied him carefully. Her mother had never mentioned this human or his colony, but the story rang true. Her mother had always helped those in need, even when it cost her greatly. "What makes you think you are worthy to stand beside a Velari queen?" the Drakkar prince demanded. "You have no army, no fleet, no power." Marcus turned to face the prince. He was small compared to the massive alien, but his eyes showed no fear. "I have nothing to offer except myself," Marcus said simply. "I am not here to gain power or territory. I am here because a wise queen saw something in me, and I owe her a debt I can never repay." Keth leaned close to Sirana again. "He is interesting, my queen. Shall I add him to the trials?" Sirana nodded slowly. She did not know why, but something about this human caught her attention. Perhaps it was his honesty. Perhaps it was the way he stood firm against insults without anger or pride. "The trials will begin tomorrow," she announced to all the candidates. "You will face 3 tests: strength, wisdom, and heart. Those who fail will leave. Those who succeed will remain for my final choice." The candidates bowed and left the great hall. Marcus was the last to go. At the door, he looked back at the queen one final time. Their eyes met for just a moment. Then he was gone. That night Sirana could not sleep. She walked through the gardens of the palace, her mind troubled. She had met hundreds of candidates over the past year, warriors who could crush stone with their bare hands, scholars who knew the secrets of dying stars, princes who commanded armies of millions. But none of them felt right. She stopped by a pool of still water and looked at her reflection. Her scales shimmered blue and silver in the moonlight. Her 4 eyes glowed softly. She was beautiful by Velari standards and powerful beyond measure, but she was also lonely. "You cannot sleep either." Sirana turned to find Marcus standing nearby. He held up his hands quickly. "I apologize, my queen. I did not mean to startle you. I was just walking, and I did not expect anyone else to be out here." "You should be resting before the trials," Sirana said. Marcus smiled slightly. "I could say the same to you." He had a point. Sirana found herself smiling back just a little. "Tell me about my mother," she said. "Tell me what happened at your colony." Marcus's expression grew serious. He walked closer to the pool and stood beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "It was 10 years ago. Our colony was small, just a few thousand people. We had no defenses. When the Kreeth came, we thought we would all die." He paused, looking at the water. "Your mother's fleet arrived just in time. She fought the Kreeth herself, leading from the front. I watched her ship dance through enemy fire like it was nothing. She saved every single person on that colony." "That sounds like my mother," Sirana said softly. "After the battle, she came down to the surface. She walked among us, healing the wounded with her own hands. She asked nothing in return, but she spoke to me before she left." "What did she say?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "She said that true strength is not measured in weapons or armies. It is measured in what you are willing to sacrifice for others. She looked at me like she could see into my soul. Then she told me about you." Sirana felt her heart beat faster. "What did she say about me?" "She said you would be the greatest queen the Velari had ever known. But she worried that you would face challenges that strength alone could not overcome. She said you would need someone beside you who understood that the greatest power in the universe is the will to protect those you love." Sirana turned away so Marcus could not see the emotion in her eyes. Her mother had always believed in her, even when others doubted. To hear these words from a stranger, words her mother had spoken years ago, was almost too much to bear. "Why did she choose you?" Sirana asked. "Out of everyone she could have sent, why a human?" Marcus shook his head. "I do not know. I am nobody special, just a farmer who happened to survive a raid, but I made a promise to your mother that day. I promised that if you ever needed help I would come. I keep my promises." Sirana turned back to face him. In the moonlight she could see the honesty in his eyes. There was no greed there, no ambition. Just simple determination and a kind of quiet strength she had never seen before. "The trials tomorrow will be difficult," she warned him. "The other candidates are far more powerful than you. You could be hurt or killed." "I know," Marcus said, "but I did not come here to win. I came here to keep my word. Whatever happens tomorrow, I will face it with everything I have." He bowed his head respectfully, then turned and walked back toward the palace. Sirana watched him go, her mind racing with questions. Who was this human, and why had her mother trusted him so completely? She would find out tomorrow. The morning sun rose over the Velari homeworld, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. The arena was packed with spectators from across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see the trials. Everyone wanted to know who would become the next king of the Velari. The candidates stood in a line before the Queen's viewing platform. There were 20 of them in total, warriors and princes from the most powerful species in the galaxy. And at the end of the line, looking small and fragile, stood Marcus Chen. The crowd whispered and laughed when they saw the human. Surely he was a joke, they said. Surely he would be eliminated in the first trial. Sirana silenced them with a single raised hand. "Today begins the trials," she announced. The first test is strength. You will face challenges that will push your bodies to their limits. Only the strongest will survive. The first challenge was simple. Each candidate had to lift a massive stone block and carry it across the arena. The blocks weighed thousands of pounds. For most of the candidates, it was easy. The Drakkar prince lifted his block with one hand and laughed. Marcus approached his block slowly. He placed his hands against it and pushed with all his might. It did not move. The crowd laughed again. Even some of the other candidates joined in. But Marcus did not give up. He adjusted his grip, found a better angle, and pushed again. The block moved just slightly. Sweat poured down his face. His muscles shook with effort. But inch by inch, he pushed the block forward. It took him 10 times longer than any other candidate. By the end, he was gasping for breath and could barely stand. But he finished. He did not quit. Sirana watched him closely. Most candidates who struggled simply gave up. They had too much pride to continue when victory was impossible. But Marcus had no pride to protect. He only had determination. "Impressive," Keth said quietly. "He has no quit in him." The second strength challenge was combat. Each candidate would fight a trained Velari warrior. They did not have to win, but they had to last for 5 minutes without being defeated. The other candidates handled this easily. They were all warriors themselves, trained in combat from birth. The Drakkar prince actually killed his opponent by accident and had to apologize to the queen. Marcus faced his opponent with empty hands. The Velari warrior was twice his size and carried a spear that crackled with energy. "Begin," the announcer called. The warrior attacked immediately, his spear flashing toward Marcus's chest. Marcus dodged to the side, barely avoiding the blade. The crowd gasped. How had he moved so fast? For the next 5 minutes, Marcus did not attack once. He only dodged and blocked and ran. He used every piece of the arena to his advantage, keeping obstacles between himself and his opponent. He took several hits that would have killed a weaker being, but he kept moving. When the time ran out, Marcus was bleeding from a dozen wounds, but he was still standing. The crowd was silent. They did not know what to think. He had not won, not really, but he had survived against impossible odds. "The human has passed the first trial," Keth announced, his voice carrying across the arena. Sirana found herself smiling again. She was beginning to understand why her mother had invited this human. He was not strong in the way the galaxy understood strength, but he had something else, something that could not be measured or weighed. He had the strength to never give up. The second trial began the next morning, and this time the test was wisdom. The candidates gathered in the Hall of Scholars, where the great minds of the Velari had studied for thousands of years. Ancient books lined the walls, and strange machines hummed with forgotten knowledge. Queen Sirana stood on a raised platform with her advisor Keth beside her. The candidates sat at individual desks, each one given the same set of puzzles and questions. "Wisdom is not just about knowing things," Sirana announced. "It is about understanding how to use what you know. Some of these questions have no right answer. What matters is how you think." The first set of questions tested basic knowledge: history, science, mathematics. Most candidates did well, especially the scholars who had spent their lives studying. Marcus struggled with questions about galactic history and alien science, but he answered what he could with honest effort. The second set of questions was different. These were moral puzzles, situations where there was no clear right or wrong. One question asked what a leader should do if they had to choose between saving 1,000 innocent people or saving their own child. Another asked how to handle a situation where telling the truth would cause great harm, but lying would save lives. The candidates debated and argued with themselves. Some wrote long essays defending their positions. Others tried to find clever ways around the questions. Marcus stared at his paper for a long time. Then he wrote a simple answer. When the trial ended, Keth collected all the papers and brought them to Sirana. She read through them one by one, her 4 eyes scanning quickly. Most candidates gave exactly the answer she expected. The warriors chose force. The diplomats chose compromise. The scholars tried to analyze every option until they found the theoretically optimal solution. Then she reached Marcus's paper. For the question about saving 1,000 people or one child, he had written, "I would try to save everyone, but if I truly had to choose, I would save the 1,000. Then I would spend the rest of my life finding a way to save my child too, because a true leader never stops fighting for the people they love, even when the battle seems lost." For the question about truth and lies, he had written, "I would tell the truth, not because lying is always wrong, but because a leader who lies to protect people teaches them that they cannot handle the truth. In the long run, that does more harm than any single painful fact." Sirana read his answers several times. They were simple, almost naive, but there was a wisdom in them that many of the more complex answers lacked. He understood something that many powerful beings never learned. True wisdom was not about finding the perfect solution. It was about never giving up on the people you were trying to protect. "How did the human do?" Keth asked. "Better than he knows," Sirana replied. The second trial ended with 10 candidates remaining. The others had been eliminated, either for wrong answers or for showing values that Sirana did not want in a mate. Marcus was still among them. That evening, Sirana found herself walking through the gardens again. She told herself she was just taking fresh air, but deep down, she hoped she might see the human again. She found him sitting by the pool where they had talked before. He was staring at the water, his face troubled. "You did well today," Sirana said as she approached. Marcus looked up and quickly stood, bowing his head. "Thank you, my queen, but I am not sure I deserve to still be here. The other candidates are so much smarter than me." "They know more things," Sirana corrected. "That is not the same as being smarter." Marcus considered this. "I suppose you are right. My father used to say that the wisest person in the room is often the one who admits they do not have all the answers." "Your father sounds like a wise man." "He was." Marcus's voice grew soft. "He died in the Kreeth raid. He pushed me out of the way when a beam collapsed. I lived because he gave his life." Sirana felt a deep pain in her chest. She understood loss all too well. Her mother had been her closest friend and advisor. Losing her had nearly broken Sirana's heart. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I know what it is to lose someone you love." Marcus looked at her, and for a moment something passed between them. A connection, an understanding. "Your mother told me something else that night," Marcus said slowly. "Something I have never told anyone." "What was it?" "She said that the greatest danger to the Velari would not come from enemies outside. It would come from within. She said there would be those who wanted to use your power for their own purposes. She warned me to watch for them." Sirana felt cold despite the warm night air. She had sensed this danger herself. Some of the candidates were here for power, not love. They wanted to control her, to use the Velari armies for their own ambitions. "Do you know who she meant?" Sirana asked. Marcus shook his head. "No, but I have been watching. Something does not feel right about some of the other candidates. I cannot explain it, but my instincts tell me to be careful." Sirana studied him closely. Humans were said to have strong instincts, a gift from their evolution on a dangerous world. Perhaps his feelings were worth listening to. "The final trial is tomorrow," she said. "The test of heart. It is the most important one and the most dangerous." "What does it involve?" Sirana hesitated. The details of the third trial were supposed to be secret, but something made her want to warn this human. "Each candidate will face their deepest fear," she said. "The trial uses ancient Velari technology to create a vision that feels completely real. Many candidates break under the pressure. Some never recover." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. "Thank you for telling me," he said. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that I am glad I came here. Even if I fail, even if I am eliminated, meeting you has been worth every hardship." Sirana felt warmth spread through her chest. No candidate had ever spoken to her like that. They all wanted something from her. Power, prestige, territory. But this human wanted nothing except to keep a promise and maybe, possibly, to know her better. "Get some rest," she said softly. "Tomorrow will be difficult." Marcus bowed and turned to leave, but he stopped after a few steps and looked back. "My queen," he said, "I do not know what the future holds, but I want you to know that whatever happens, I will stand beside you, not as a candidate trying to win a prize, but as someone who truly cares about your safety and happiness." Before Sirana could respond, he was gone. She stood alone in the garden for a long time, thinking about his words. In all her years of meeting candidates, no one had ever said anything like that. Perhaps her mother had been wiser than anyone knew. The third trial took place in the Heart Chamber, the most sacred place in the Velari Palace. Ancient machines filled the room, humming with power that had been building for centuries. The technology here could peer into the minds of any being and show them visions of their deepest fears. Queen Sirana sat on a throne of living crystal that pulsed with light. Beside her, Keth monitored the machines with careful attention. 10 candidates remain, Keth announced. This final trial will determine which ones are worthy to continue to the Queen's selection. The Drakkar prince laughed. I fear nothing. This trial is meaningless." Other candidates nodded and boasted about their courage. Only Marcus remained silent, his face calm but serious. One by one, the candidates entered the chamber and faced the machines. Each one was connected to the ancient technology and forced to experience their worst nightmare made real. The first candidate, a warrior prince from the Nexari system, faced a vision of his entire people being enslaved. He fought bravely at first, but the vision was too real, too overwhelming. He broke down crying and begged for mercy. He was eliminated. The second candidate, a scholar from a species known for their intelligence, faced a vision where he forgot everything he knew. His mind became empty, useless. He screamed and tore at his own head trying to find his lost knowledge. He was eliminated. One by one, the candidates faced their fears and fell. The Drakkar prince entered the chamber with a confident smile. He faced a vision where his strength meant nothing, where enemies he could not hurt tore apart everything he cared about. For the first time in his life, he felt truly helpless. But his pride would not let him give up. He fought through the vision with pure rage, smashing and destroying until the nightmare ended. He emerged from the chamber shaking but still standing. "I told you," he said loudly, "I fear nothing." But Sirana had seen the truth. He had conquered his fear through violence and anger. That was not true courage. That was desperation. Finally, it was Marcus's turn. The human stepped into the chamber calmly. The machines connected to his mind, and the vision began. Sirana watched through a special crystal that let her see what each candidate experienced. What she saw made her heart stop. Marcus was back on his colony during the Kreeth raid. Buildings burned around him. People screamed and died. But the vision was different from the real event. In this nightmare, Queen Voreth never arrived. No one came to save them. Marcus watched his father die again, just like before. He watched his mother get taken by the raiders. He watched friends and neighbors fall one by one. And through it all, he was helpless, too weak to fight, too slow to save anyone. All he could do was watch everyone he loved be destroyed. Sirana expected him to break. This vision was specifically designed to hit him where it hurt most. No one could face such horror and remain standing. But Marcus did not break. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. His whole body shook with grief and pain, but he did not look away. He did not try to escape. Instead, he did something no candidate had ever done before. He reached out to the people in his vision. Even knowing they were not real, even knowing he could not save them, he tried to comfort them. He held a dying child and told her she was not alone. He stood between a family and the approaching raiders, even though he knew he would be cut down. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry I could not protect you, but I am here. I will not leave you." The machines registered something they had never recorded before. Instead of fear consuming him, something else grew in his heart. It was grief, yes, and pain, but beneath that was something stronger. Love, pure, selfless love for people who could not be saved. The vision ended. Marcus stood alone in the chamber, his face wet with tears. He was shaking badly, and he looked like he might collapse at any moment. But he was still standing. Keth stared at his readings in amazement. "My queen, I have never seen anything like this." His fear response was off the charts, but it was completely overshadowed by another reading. "His protective instincts are the strongest I have ever measured, by far." Sirana stood from her throne and walked toward the chamber. The other candidates watched in confusion. Queens did not approach candidates during trials. She entered the chamber and stood before Marcus. He looked up at her with red eyes still filled with tears. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I could not stop crying. I know it shows weakness." "No," Sirana said firmly. "It shows strength, the kind of strength that matters most." She reached out and touched his face gently. His skin was warm, his tears still fresh. "You faced a vision of your worst nightmare," she said. "You experienced the death of everyone you loved, and instead of fighting or fleeing, you tried to comfort them. Even knowing they were not real, you could not bear to let them die alone." Marcus shook his head. "It was all I could do. I could not save them, so I tried to give them some peace at the end. It seemed like the only thing that mattered." Sirana felt tears in her own eyes. This human understood something that most beings never learned in 1,000 years of life. True courage was not about conquering fear. It was about caring so much about others that you faced your fear anyway, not for your own sake, but for theirs. "The trial is over," she announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I have made my decision." The Drakkar prince stepped forward angrily. "You cannot be serious." This human wept like a child. "He showed no strength, no power. He is nothing compared to me." Sirana turned to face him, and her eyes blazed with power. For the first time, she let everyone see the full strength of a Velari queen. "You showed rage," she said coldly. "You conquered your fear by destroying everything around you. That is not the heart of a protector. That is the heart of a destroyer." She turned back to Marcus and took his hand. This human showed something far greater. He showed the heart of someone who would give everything to protect those he loves. Even when victory is impossible, he would never stop trying. "That is the heart I need beside me." The gathered crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. A human, chosen over the greatest warriors and princes in the galaxy. But as they watched Sirana help Marcus to his feet, as they saw the way she looked at him, they began to understand. Power was not about strength or knowledge or armies. Power was about the will to protect, no matter the cost. And no one in the galaxy had shown that will more clearly than this simple human farmer. The following days were filled with chaos. The other candidates left, some angry, some confused, some accepting. The Drakkar prince threatened war before his own advisors talked him down. Ambassadors from across the galaxy sent messages demanding explanations. But Sirana ignored them all. She had more important things to do. She spent her days with Marcus, walking through the gardens, talking for hours about everything and nothing. She learned about his life on the colony, his dreams of exploring the stars, his memories of his family. In turn, she told him about her mother, about the burden of ruling, about her fears for the future of her people. They did not rush. There was no need. A Velari queen lived for thousands of years. She had plenty of time to let this relationship grow naturally. "I still do not understand why your mother chose me," Marcus said one evening as they watched the sun set over the Crystal Mountains. Sirana smiled. "I have been thinking about that, and I believe I finally understand." "Tell me." "My mother knew that I would face great challenges. She knew that enemies would come for me, from outside and from within. She knew that I would need someone beside me who would never betray me, never abandon me, never put their own interests ahead of my people." She turned to face him. She looked across the entire galaxy and found the one person who had nothing to gain from being with me. A simple human farmer who owed her a debt and would keep his promise no matter what. Someone with no army, no power, no ambition. Someone who would stand with me purely because he cared. Marcus considered this. "But I do have something to gain now. I am going to be king, apparently. That is a lot of power for a farmer." Sirana laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised even her. She had not laughed like that since her mother died. "You will be king in title only," she explained. "The Velari have no concept of shared power. I will still rule alone. You will be my mate, my partner, my protector, but not my equal in authority." "I do not want authority," Marcus said simply. "I just want to help you and protect you. That is all I ever wanted." Sirana felt warmth flood through her heart. This human was remarkable. Any other candidate would have demanded power, demanded recognition. But Marcus wanted nothing except to stand beside her. "There is something you should know," Sirana said carefully. "Being the mate of a Velari queen is dangerous. There will be those who want to hurt me through you. There will be assassination attempts, kidnapping plots, constant threats. Your life will never be peaceful again." Marcus nodded slowly. "I understood that from the beginning, but I made a promise to your mother and I will keep it. Whatever dangers come, I will face them with you." Over the following weeks, Marcus proved his words true again and again. The first threat came from a faction of Velari nobles who did not want a human as their queen's mate. They hired assassins to kill Marcus during a formal dinner. The assassins never got close. Marcus had been watching them since they entered the room. Something about the way they moved triggered his instincts, the same instincts that had helped him survive the Kreeth raid. He pushed Sirana out of the way moments before the first attack and managed to hold off 2 assassins long enough for the royal guards to respond. He took a knife wound to the shoulder that would have killed the queen if it had reached its target. "You almost died protecting me," Sirana said as healers worked on his wound. "That is my job now," Marcus replied with a weak smile. "Besides, I have had worse. Remember the Kreeth raid." The second threat came from outside the Velari Empire. A neighboring species called the Thrax had been looking for an excuse to attack. They sent a challenge, demanding that the Queen's chosen mate prove himself in single combat or be declared unworthy. It was a trap. The Thrax champion was the greatest warrior in their history, a monster of a being who had killed hundreds of opponents in the fighting pits. There was no way Marcus could survive. But Velari tradition required the challenge be answered. If Marcus refused, Sirana would be shamed before the entire galaxy. "I will fight," Marcus said without hesitation. "You will die," Sirana protested. "This is exactly what they want. They want to weaken me by killing you." Marcus took her hand gently. "Listen to me. I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid of living in a galaxy where you are shamed because of me. If I have to fight, I will fight. If I have to die, I will die. But I will never let my fear put you in danger." The fight took place on neutral ground, witnessed by representatives from dozens of species. The Thrax champion towered over Marcus, carrying weapons designed to cause maximum pain and suffering. Everyone expected the human to die in seconds. What happened next became legendary across the galaxy. Marcus did not try to match the champion's strength. He knew he could not win a direct fight. Instead, he used everything his dangerous homeworld had taught him about survival. He dodged, he ducked. He used every dirty trick humans had ever invented. He got hurt, badly, multiple times. But he kept moving, kept fighting, kept refusing to die. The champion grew frustrated. This weak little human would not just die like he was supposed to. Every time the champion landed what should have been a killing blow, Marcus somehow survived and came back for more. After 3 hours of brutal combat, the champion made a mistake. Just one small moment of overconfidence. Marcus saw his opening and took it. A single strike to a vulnerable point in the champion's armor. Not enough to kill, but enough to cause tremendous pain. The champion fell to one knee. "Yield," Marcus said, his voice rough from exhaustion. "I do not want to kill you. This fight is meaningless, but I will if I have to." The champion stared at him in disbelief. No one had ever hurt him like this. No one had ever refused to die when they were supposed to. "You are not possible," the champion rasped. "What are you?" "I am human," Marcus said simply, "and we do not know how to quit." The champion yielded. The Thrax were forced to accept the result and withdraw their challenge. Marcus had proven himself in the most dramatic way possible. When he returned to the Velari homeworld, he was carried through the streets like a hero. The same people who had laughed at him weeks ago now cheered his name. But Marcus ignored the crowds. He only had eyes for Sirana. She ran to him as soon as he arrived and threw her arms around him, not caring who was watching. Her 4 eyes filled with tears of relief. "Never do that again," she whispered fiercely. "I cannot lose you." "You will not," Marcus promised. "I will always come back to you." The galaxy slowly accepted the unprecedented union. Some species still grumbled, but none could deny that the human had proven himself 100 times over. He had faced impossible odds and survived through sheer determination and love. Months later, Sirana and Marcus were joined in the traditional Velari mating ceremony. It was the largest celebration the galaxy had seen in centuries. Beings from every corner of known space came to witness the event. As they stood together before the gathered masses, Sirana spoke the ancient words that would bind them together for life. "I choose you," she said. "Not for your power, not for your armies, not for what you can give me. I choose you for who you are, for your heart, for your courage, for the simple, beautiful truth that you would give everything to protect those you love." Marcus spoke his own vows, simple words that carried more weight than any grand speech. "I promise to stand beside you through any storm. I promise to put your safety and your people's well-being above my own life. I promise to never stop fighting, never give up, never let go. For as long as I live, you will never face your enemies alone." The ceremony was completed with a flash of light as ancient Velari technology bound their life forces together. They would live and die as one now, their fates forever intertwined. After the ceremony, they stood together on a balcony overlooking the Crystal Mountains. Millions of beings celebrated below, but up here, they were alone. "Do you regret it?" Sirana asked. "Leaving your simple life behind to become part of all this?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I was a farmer with no family, no purpose. Your mother gave me something worth living for, and you gave me something worth dying for. How could I regret that?" Sirana leaned into him, feeling his warmth against her scales. It was strange how natural it felt. 2 completely different species, from completely different worlds, and yet they fit together perfectly. "My mother was right about you," she said softly. "She knew exactly what I needed." "What was that?" "Someone who understood that true strength comes from love. Someone who would never stop protecting the people they cared about. Someone who would face any fear, any danger, any impossible odds, just for the chance to keep others safe." She looked up at his face, scarred now from battles fought on her behalf. "She found me the strongest being in the galaxy, not in body but in heart." Marcus smiled, a genuine smile that reached his tired eyes. "I am just a human. There is nothing special about me." Sirana kissed him then, the first kiss between a Velari queen and a human in the history of the universe. "That is where you are wrong," she whispered. "That is exactly what makes you special." Years passed. The reign of Queen Sirana became known as the greatest in Velari history. She brought peace to ancient conflicts and prosperity to struggling worlds. Her wisdom and compassion touched billions of lives. And through it all, Marcus stood beside her. He never sought power or recognition. He only wanted to protect his queen and help her help others. They faced many challenges together: wars, plagues, political crises. Every time, Marcus was there with his simple wisdom and unbreakable will. He could not solve problems with force or technology, but he could remind Sirana why she fought and help her find the strength to keep going. When enemies came for them, Marcus was always the first line of defense. He fought beings far stronger and faster than himself, using nothing but human stubbornness and love to survive. When Sirana doubted herself, Marcus was there with kind words and steady support. He never let her forget that she was capable of amazing things. When the burden of ruling became too heavy, they would walk together in the gardens where they had first truly talked. And for a little while, she could just be Sirana, not the queen, just a person in love with someone who loved her back. The galaxy came to admire the human king. Other species started to look at humanity differently. If one human could prove himself the equal of the greatest warriors and wisest scholars, perhaps humans were not as primitive as everyone thought. Trade agreements were signed. Alliances were formed. Humanity took its place among the great civilizations of the galaxy, all because one farmer had kept a promise to a dying queen. One day, an ambassador from a distant species asked Marcus the question that everyone wanted to know. "What is the secret of human strength? How do your people accomplish impossible things?" Marcus thought about it for a long time. He thought about his father dying to save him. He thought about Queen Voreth fighting an entire fleet to save strangers. He thought about standing in the fighting pit against a champion who should have killed him in seconds. "We are not the strongest," he said finally. "We are not the smartest. We do not have claws or armor or any of the gifts other species have." He paused and looked across the room at Sirana, who was listening with a knowing smile. "But we love fiercely, and when we love someone, we will never stop fighting for them. You can hurt us, you can beat us down, you can throw impossible odds at us. It does not matter. We will keep getting back up over and over until we win or until we die. That is the secret of human strength. It is not in our bodies, it is in our hearts." The ambassador nodded slowly, beginning to understand. "And what happens when a human cannot win, when the battle is truly hopeless?" Marcus smiled, the same simple smile that had first caught Sirana's attention all those years ago. "Then we die trying, and in doing so, we show the universe that some things are worth more than survival. Some things are worth fighting for even when you know you cannot win." He looked at his wife, his queen, his reason for being. "Love is one of those things." Sirana crossed the room and took his hand. After years together, they could communicate without words. She knew what he was thinking, and he knew she agreed. They had built something remarkable together. A partnership based on mutual respect, unshakable loyalty, and the simple truth that protecting others was the highest purpose any being could have. The human had proven himself not just to one queen, but to an entire galaxy. And in doing so, he had proven something about his species that would echo through history. Humans were not the most powerful beings in the universe, but when it came to protective instincts, to the will to guard and defend those they loved, they were absolutely unmatched. And that, in the end, was worth more than all the strength and wisdom in the stars.